Hello, welcome. We're here on the Rift. Today I wanted to talk to you about Katarina. Katarina is an assassin, a very mobile assassin. I want to talk to you a bit about Katarina's abilities, some of her combos pre-6 and post-6, some of the variations of those combinations, and I also want to talk about how she thrives in a fight, and the different variations that you might use in different scenarios. So, to start with, I'm going to go into a little bit about Katarina's abilities. If you already know something about League of Legends, you might want to just move the video forward here, because I'm just going to read each of her abilities, and I'm not going to explain them. They should be self-explanatory, but if you have a hard time understanding what Katarina's abilities do, and you want to learn those first, I would suggest you watch some of the Champion Spotlight videos on Katarina. Riot makes these videos, so they're very high quality, and they'll explain everything you need to know about Katarina's abilities. Let's start with her passive. Ferocity. Whenever an enemy champion dies that Katarina has damaged in the last 3 seconds, her ability cooldowns are reduced by 15 seconds. We'll talk about the second part of her passive here soon. Her Q is called Bouncing Blade, and she throws a dagger, dealing 135 magic damage to a target and 2 nearby enemies. The dagger will ricochet and land onto the ground 350 units behind the first target it strikes. So, if I throw, I've been sitting in this river peacefully for a little too long. So if I throw my dagger at the target dummy, it will bounce behind it 350 units. If I throw it from this direction, it'll bounce behind it in that direction 350 units. Katarina's W is called Preparation. She tosses a dagger into the air and gains movement speed that decays over 1.25 seconds. So this is Katarina running. Press W and you see the little burst in movement speed. Now I have ability cooldowns turned off, so I'm just pressing them over as an example. Of course, each of these abilities have a cooldown. 15 seconds for this, 9 seconds for the Q. Your E has a 14-second cooldown. You might have noticed that when I was landing on the dagger, she kind of spun around. So that is the second part of her passive. If Katarina picks up a dagger, she uses it to slash through all enemies, dealing magic damage. Go. And with the Q, that also produces a dagger. So she has 2 abilities that produce daggers. Her E is her mobility move. It's called Shunpo. Katarina dashes in the blink of an eye to a target ally, enemy, or dagger. And she'll do some damage to the closest enemy that she blinks to. Just to show you, this is an ally, and this is an enemy, I can blink to the enemy and it'll hit it. Obviously, when I blink to an ally, I don't attack my ally. But if I blink to my ally and there's an enemy nearby, he does damage to that enemy. Her E has another passive in it. It's if you pick up a dagger, it will reduce the cooldown of her Shumpo by a large percentage. As you scale this ability up, that percentage gets bigger, so the cooldown will get smaller. You can see it's on cooldown now. If I pick up a dagger, it comes off cooldown. It basically takes 10.9 seconds off of the cooldown, so I can Shumpo directly to the dagger as well. And it almost resets my cooldown by about, 78%, so a little more than 3 seconds is left. And that is Katarina's abilities. There's one final ability, and it's pretty straightforward. But I'll go into that after talking to you about the combos pre-level 6. So, pre-6, what you want to do with Katarina is you want to trade on people in short bursts. She doesn't thrive in extended fights, but with her ability to reset her Shumpo by picking up a dagger, she can stick to a target pretty easily. So you might want to start by throwing a Q, and then Shumpo behind them, and then throw your W up, and keep it going. As soon as you have your Shumpo back up, just continue that. Turn my ability cooldowns on, so you can see it's Q, then E, then W. That's one combo. Let's put some magic resist. The dummy now has 40 magic resist. I have 36, so that's about even. That combo with magic resist looks like this. Around 600 damage. A good chunk of change. The other option is, instead of using your Q first, is to lead with your leaping ability. Now you don't pick up the daggers as quickly this way, but the advantage is you have the element of surprise. You can be walking around in lane, and 1 second you're here hitting a minion, next second you're in on them. So, using that method is good for two things. One is you have the element of surprise, and the second is theoretically not every enemy is a target dummy, and they have the ability to move around. Doing this might maximize your damage in the shortest amount of time. The disadvantage is that you choose to go in to a dangerous situation without being able to get out immediately. Whereas if you throw a Q first, you're not required to go in. You can make a decision. If the decision is, this is a good fight, let's go, then you go. And since you pick up two daggers almost simultaneously, the ability to Shumpo back out to an ally or to let's say you have a minion, is there. So I'll show you what that looks like if I just want a quick trade. And I'm out. Whereas if I decide to go in first, it's a brief time where I can't E again. Now I got it back. And in that brief time, the enemy is going to trade spells back onto you, do a lot of damage, and perhaps they'll do just as much to you as you're doing to them. So you trade off element of surprise for safety whenever you go in with your E first. Okay, let's go to level 6. Her Death Lotus is her ultimate, and it's just the coolest skill. Katarina becomes a flurry of blades, rapidly throwing knives at the 3 nearest enemy champions, dealing tons of magic damage per knife. This will happen in a channeling over 2.5 seconds. Another cool thing is it makes it hard for the champions to heal. It applies something called Grievous Wounds, which reduces the healing and regeneration by 60% for 3 seconds. So, if we have just one enemy, it looks like this. But it can actually hit up to 3. So that's pretty cool. It does a lot of damage, and it does it to a lot of people in an area. If you have abilities, you can really pump out a lot of damage very quickly. So, knowing that these target dummies have around 1,000 health, damage output is something like this. With magic resist, it's around 600 or 700 damage. Without magic resist, level 6, you can all in on 3 people and do roughly above 600 damage. So that's a lot. At level 6, I have 974 health. Other mid laners will have something in around that number. So those are her abilities, and you kind of learned pre-6 combo. Let's look a little bit at her post-6 combo. Similarly to pre-6, you can either lead with an E, or you can lead with a Q. Leading with a Q again will generate more damage, but it's more choreographed because they can see where your dagger's landing, and any good player won't sit around a dagger. They will see this dagger land here and immediately scatter. So, sitting here in the bot lane, and you might be thinking, why are we in the bottom instead of the middle? Katarina is a champion that has incredible strengths, but she also has some very large deficits, some huge weaknesses as well. Her weaknesses revolve more around the fact that to trade effectively, you have to play with her passive, Veracity. Her passive is difficult to do when you have moving targets. Assuming your target stays perfectly still, you can get a full trade-off. But, of course, this is never the case. In the mid lane, Katarina is known to be a weak laner, mostly for that reason. It's best if she can take short trades to chip about 100 or 200 health off of an enemy before deciding to go all in. But other mid laners are typically very adept at doing good bursts of damage as well, and so Katarina falls a little short. However, once she hits 6, Katarina can all in her opponents That is, in essence, the reason I think Katarina really isn't too bad of a bot lane champion. She focuses a lot on getting high damage output and high mobility. When paired with a support, a lot of the crowd control that you might otherwise not have is provided. And the damage that Katarina can do when lethal allows her to get resets, so it's much more easy to all in when you have a support who can aid in some of the upfront damage. Of course, the bottom lane is volatile for both lanes. Katarina, although strong, has no easy way to farm. So it's very common when playing Katarina bottom to go down 15 CS even, especially before level 3. Before level 3, you just do not fight, and you use your bouncing blade to farm minions where you can. Your support can feel free to take minions whenever they're available with their ranged attacks. I think the bot lane supports that fit well with Katarina bottom are mages and hard CC champions like Leona or Nautilus. Mages are the best because they have ability to whittle your opponent's health down much faster and with much more safety. Once the opponent sits at around, let's say 400 health, you actually do have the option to go in. And the damage you do will oftentimes at that point be lethal. So her lack of CC and her inability to all in a champion is sort of balanced out by having a support who can provide you that upfront damage, and oftentimes they can provide you with some form of crowd control as well. When you hit level 6, the all-ins become even more potent, and Katarina really begins to shine. So why can't you do this in the mid lane? You're doing almost the same thing. Well, Katarina also is a champion that performs much, much better if she can begin to snowball. And there are simply more champions in the bottom that she can begin to snowball off of. Here we are in the bottom lane. The first 3 minions are grabbed up using the Q. But from here on out, you really just need to throw Q to get any CS that you can. You don't want to force yourself too far forward, and you don't want to get the wave pushing. So just as an example, I've thrown a Q to get a CS and immediately ran away. Zyra went for some poke, which is fine, but you can see immediately how detrimental that can be if you're not careful. She stepped forward just a little bit too far, and she gets chunked for less than half her health. So here's a scenario where I want Zyra to poke people down, and I shouldn't try to do too much damage. Instead, I go in, and you can see how unfavorable that trade is. It's not good unless she gets some form of CC. My cooldowns are back up now, so we do try to do some damage. And I secure a kill, luckily right before Skarner dies. So, playing patiently around your allies is super important. whenever you're trying to play a Katarina bot lane, because you really don't want to risk throwing your lane too early, giving the bot lane too much of a lead. If that happens, you're not doing your team any favors. Zara gets hit by Morgana Q. Unfortunately, I jump in to kill the Lucian, but he flashing into heals, preventing my passive from doing any damage. So I decide to go for Morgana, and I do trade the kill, but at the cost of my flash and my ignite. Let's watch it in slow motion. So I'm thinking if I can kill the Lucian really quick, then we're good. I'm just gonna flash E, W, Q. Flash E, W, Q. My Q lands, I just pick up, and you can see even slow motion that my W doesn't hit Lucian because he flashes and heals. So against a dummy, it's very nice because the target doesn't move, but Lucian flashes away and takes no damage. That's exactly why playing Katarina can be so difficult, because people will get themselves out of your passive range. One more time, just so you can see that. EWQ, always so low. Pick up my passive there. Still don't have a kill. E comes back up. My plan was just to try to reset as fast as possible. Almost worked. Anyway, it's a 1 for 3. Good job, other team. So you can see right here, things almost go really badly. I try a little trade, but out of the side, Zyra gets hit by a Morgana Q. Zyra throws down all her abilities and chucks Lucian down to almost no health. At this point, it's almost an easy trade for me unless he burns some summoners, which is exactly what he does. He burns a summoner, he's away, and saves himself. But after that, we have gained control of the lane. Unfortunately, I end up throwing my lead right here, and this is partially just me not playing the fight right, but it's also a good indicator of why Katarina needs some hard CC on her side. You can watch how this plays out. I go to my W and just get chunked for all my health. And because Lucian is running around in the bush, I had to walk towards him before starting my arm. So what you can see here is that, again, we are starting to gain control of the lane with a little bit of chunk damage on the Lucian. Most of that is done by the support, and I'll throw a Q in here and there when I can. But at this point in the game, it's much easier to all-in somebody because you have all your abilities, and my Q is almost max level as well as Zyra's Q. It's an incredibly powerful combo. Let's watch it again in slow motion. Lucian getting chunked to less than half of his health means that the ability to all in is there. She gets the root. I just EW. And again, you
can see immediately how difficult it is to land your abilities when somebody has a dash like that. If he hadn't been rooted, I wouldn't have gotten any damage off on illusion. Luckily, Morgana was stuck in a weird spot, and I was able to capitalize on the damage from her. And one more time at normal speed. Okay. At this point in the game, our team has a healthy lead on the jungler, and everyone else is going pretty much even. But we're starting to posture around the dragon. The cool thing about Katarina is that her mid-game, at around level 8, 9, 10, 11, are very, very strong. In teamfight scenarios, she can release an immense amount of damage in a very short period of time. So I think our team starts to gather around the middle because we want to be ready for the dragon. And Zyra and Basilian are already doing a decent amount of damage, poking and chipping away at the enemy. I was able to quickly get fiddlesticks all on my own while everyone in the middle was preoccupied. You can see that again. So I noticed Morgana and Lucian with that ward are kind of low, and fiddlesticks is there. So while Morgana and Lucian run that way, I take this opportunity to attack the fiddlesticks, doing my full combo. Even after being CC'd, the damage is just too high, and I'm able to get the resets and kill the Morgana as well. So here's the full combo on fiddlesticks in slow motion. E, W, Q, T, R. Me, but the fear, once it was finished, I just used my E reset, EWQ onto Morgana, and that's a simple double kill. EWQDR. EWQ. EWQ. And Lucian has had enough. We go on to take the game from here. EWQ. ETQ. E out. Q. Waiting to get in a flanking position. EWQR. flashes, I pick up my cue. E, auto. EQ. E. EWQ. E. EWQ, reset. W, E. And that's the game.